Hey folks, it's Dave and Ron here, a special Digital to Dice video show, kind of a football wrap-up show. Ron, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Okay, hey, I got my Chiefs gear on. Can you see that? I have my Chiefs gear. I got my hat and my shirt. My shirt's a little faded, but
You
I've
know,
been a Chiefs fan a long time. I've been a Chiefs since 1977. I've been a Chiefs fan.
Here's a person who has hundreds of dollars in creamsicle stuff that can at least wear the right sport. You know what I'm wearing today? I'm wearing football stuff today. UVM undefeated since 1974. Of course, that's the last time UVM played football. But
That's fantastic.
And so, Dave,
So you got your undefeated shirt on. I got my Chiefs stuff on. We're ready to recap the championship game, a few other things. So, we're going to hear talking about Chiefs 49ers. We're going to talk about Oreo cookies. We're going to talk about Ron's a tough day he had trying to get a bagel and a coffee. Ron is fired up. He is fired up. He was out of control a few minutes ago. So we're going to see how out of control Ron really gets. But thanks for joining us here. I haven't been live in quite some time, Ron. I'm finally getting over all the illnesses. The wife's getting over her pneumonia. It's been a bad January. So we're here in February going live here at noontime.
Well, we tried to send you some plasma down there to make you alive again, but you didn't take the donation.
No, I didn't.
You wanted a pineapple pizza. Anyway,
I like pineapple pizza. And okay, so let's kick things off first. Let's just talk about the game last night. For me, it was really fun to be able to kick back and watch a game and not really have a dog in the fight. Okay, there was no Patriots this year. There was no team that I really hated. You know, sometimes you get, oh man, I don't want them to win, or I don't want him to win. Right. And there was none of that. There was really none of that. It was two very neutral teams. You know, I like the 49ers, Montana, young back in the day. I did like them. The Chiefs, you know, I didn't mind the Chiefs. Andy Reid would have been nice. Mahomes, that's fine. Chiefs have always been a neutral team to me. It's really hard to hate the Chiefs. It's just one of these teams that it's hard to hate the Chiefs. So I went in last night and I could kick back. I was playing some puzzles on Steam, just my jigsaw puzzles, and I was watching the game. Actually, Rob with an exclamation point had a live chat going, and I was chatting with him for a couple hours while the game was going on. All in all, it was a fun time. The game turned out pretty good. So let's talk a little bit about that. So I actually have on CBS Sports, I have the summary of what happened. We'll go over that. So I want to say hi to Al Red Sox fan, Sports Time Machine, and Max Cornelius, who are in the chat. We're just talking about the championship game last night. And before we get into what happened, let's talk about the final results. I was probably leaning a little bit more towards Kansas City. Probably selfishly speaking, as a Patriots fan. Patriots have the 6 Super Bowls, and I think if San Francisco won last night, that would have given them 6.
Yeah.
So, as a Patriots fan, selfishly speaking,
you didn't want Garoppolo to get a title.
No, I'm indifferent about Garoppolo. Okay. I wasn't wishing him well, wasn't wishing him harm, you know. But I mean, it was nice, still nice to know the Patriots have more Super Bowls than anybody right now, because quite honestly, I don't think we're going to see another one for quite some time. I think the Bill Belichick Brady era is over. Even if Brady stays, I don't think they're going to have the magic. I mean, if they're going to do it, it's going to have to be next year. They're going to have to really bulk up that team.
Yeah, the window closes next season.
Yeah, the window closes. Yeah, I don't see in 2 years Brady being carrying the team to the Super Bowl. So they're going to have to bulk up next year, find some receivers, and do something. So for me personally, I kind of pretty much know that door is almost closed on Super Bowl runs. It's been an incredible run. We got 6 of them. We've been there 9 times. I just don't think we're going to see any more. So it's still kind of nice to know that they have 6 and you know, they're still the top.
And Eli has 2, and that's the best part of that equation.
Eli has 2. Yep, and he'll be in the Hall of Fame because he because he's Manning. If it was Eli Smith or Eli Juckett,
if he was Eli Smith, he'd probably be better regarded. I've always felt that Eli got a bad rap.
Well, he started off bad because he wouldn't go to San Diego.
It was drafted by the Chargers. Yeah, first overall.
Anytime you do that, you get off on the wrong foot. And
Absolutely.
A lot of people don't like
and
it.
deserved a lot of blame for that, too.
Eric Lindros did that in hockey when he was drafted by the Quebec Nordiques and he wouldn't go there.
His parents were a big part of that.
Yeah,
and meddled with it. Anyway, this isn't about Eli.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, yeah. So, but part of me didn't want San Fran to get the 6 titles and be tied with New England. Selfishly speaking, if they did, that's fine too. I got nothing against the 49ers, but it was kind of interesting to see the Chiefs pull that. Who are you pulling for? Were you pulling for anybody?
I played the game, and I know we're going to talk a little bit about this as we move on in 2nd and 10, and I had just been really impressed with San Francisco overall. And so I had in my replay San Francisco pounding Kansas City. So I figured that I thought San Francisco was going to win just based on how that game played out for me. But it really didn't. I mean, I'm not the world's biggest Andy Reid fan. He bought his way into the Hall of Fame last night with that win. He finally got it. Overall, not disappointed with the result.
No, interesting game, fun game. It's funny you say that about Andy Reid. I tend to think that too much emphasis in sports nowadays is placed on winning it all. And, if Eli Manning didn't win those 2 Super Bowls, is he in the Hall of Fame? I mean, they won those games by less than a possession.
The funny thing is, to finish that thought, as a Giants fan, is that Eli goes down as maybe one of the top 5 Giants of all time. Can you tell the story of the New York Giants without talking about Eli Manning?
Well, Eli Manning had the longevity, is what it was. I don't know what his record was. I don't know how many times he went to the playoffs.
117.
So he was a 500 quarterback.
The 500, but if you look at 2 years where they went 6 and 10, okay, there was years that he threw a ton of interceptions. I'm not saying that Eli is the best quarterback in the history of the NFL, not a top 10 quarterback in the history of the NFL, but Dave, 2 years when they combined to go 12 and 20, okay, he threw for 8,000 yards, he threw for 70 touchdowns, and he threw for 35 interceptions. Can you put those 2 years on him?
Boy.
On the other hand, if you're gonna, I always try to be fair. The year they went 13 and 3, which was their best year, that was the year after the first Patriot upset. They go 13 and 3. They get a bye in the first round. They get the Eagles at Old Giant Stadium, and Eli pooped the bed like you would not believe. I mean, that thing was stinkier than me after a Taco Bell bender.
Well, you always have that argument about, this guy didn't win a championship. And and there's people in the Hall of Fame that didn't win, some that did, and some that shouldn't be there. And you could argue that this guy's in the Hall of Fame. So then why aren't these 50 guys in the Hall of Fame? Because they have the same exact numbers as this other guy, and I go back to sometimes it's a luck of the draw. Like I look at a guy, I hate to keep bringing up ice hockey in a football show, but a guy like Paul Coffey, everybody raves about Paul Coffey.
Could play defense to save his life. But
when he wasn't on Edmonton, I saw Coffey. He played with Boston. He played with Hartford. He was horrible. He was horrible when he wasn't on the Edmonton Oilers. I could have played defense on the Edmonton Oilers and won 5 cups, for crying out loud. Okay, so
I could have played defense with Edmonton
and won 5 cups. Yeah, maybe 3 cups. Who knows? but it's just the idea that you always talked about. Well, what if this guy was on another team, or what if this guy was on another team? So you can play that game all day long, but they're on the team that they're on, and that's that. I think too much emphasis is put on winning championship because only one team wins it out of 30 or 28 or 26
out of 30. I mean,
but back in the day, there
won a Super Bowl. Dan Marino never won a Super Bowl.
So does that make them not as good as some of these guys? I don't even know half the quarterbacks that won Super Bowls. There was some guys on Baltimore that won. I couldn't tell.
Joe Flacco's got a ring.
I mean, come on, Flacco's.
Dilfer has a ring.
Exactly. There's some bad quarterbacks.
I would take anyway. To go back to last night, I'll ask you, what impressed you the most out of both teams? I thought played well. I thought the defenses on both teams played really well.
Yeah, they did. It was fun to watch. I didn't think either team dominated. And we were chatting back and forth during the game last night, and I remember telling you, says, the Chiefs cannot get down by double digits in that fourth quarter.
You actually sent me a message when it went down over, and I said,
yeah, when he got picked off for the second time in that fourth quarter, they were driving. He got picked off, Mahomes' second time. I was like, okay, that's it. That's it. Turn out the lights. They're down by 10. They blew the drive, but it wasn't. San Francisco did nothing in that fourth quarter, and the Chiefs drove it.
I think Mahomes beat them in the fourth quarter, but go ahead.
And it was just one of these things where just the Chiefs defense stood up. They made the plays. San Francisco, maybe they picked up a first down here and there, but for the most part,
their offense didn't do anything.
They might have got 1 or 2 first down, but then they sputtered out. They never had a sustained drive. They had a 10-point lead, I want to say, with about 8 minutes left, and they gave up 3 touchdowns, and they didn't do anything on offense. And if you think about it, they could have won the game. There's a couple of plays they could have won. Now, Nate in the chat room says he questions the play call before the half. I did too.
I think we were chatting. First half, I don't get either.
We were chatting. We had a video chat going at the end of the half, and I was like, why are they not calling timeout? There's a minute 40 to play.
Yeah,
they're going to get the ball in decent field, like 20. They could probably get it at the 20 or the 30-yard line with a minute 40 to play, and they run it down to a minute and kick it. And then, wouldn't you know it, they got it up to midfield, and they threw the pass, and the guy caught it at the 10 or whatever it was, but they had the pass interference call on offense. So that
was a bad call.
But they called that during the year. They were fighting. Their arms were pushing back and forth, and you could see him extend. And once you do that, once you're fighting, it's one thing. But once you push the guy back, you create separation.
And there was a fast interference call in the end zone in the third quarter that the guy, Kelsey, I think, had the chance to make the catch, and the guy never made contact with him. I mean, that was some of the best NBA defense I've ever seen, and they flagged him.
Oh, no, he face guarded. He actually
did
he made contact. He absolutely did make contact with him. And that was very reminiscent of the Patriots-Falcons Super Bowl where Brady threw it to the tight end at the goal line, and he was ready to catch it for the touchdown. The guy just jumped in his face and wouldn't let him catch the ball. And so at the end of the half, why it's 10-10, you're getting the ball, you're going up against Mahomes and that potent offense. You need the drive, and they played way too conservative. And then they got it to midfield, even after the pass interference call. They still had the ball around midfield with time.
And he took the
knee, and they went in at the half. It's like, wow. That was really bad. In fact, they were talking about that on some of the sports radio today, that everybody in the booth was like, why aren't they calling a timeout? Why are they letting this run? This is ridiculous. You got the ball. You're in the Super Bowl. You have the best team in the NFC. Why are you taking a knee at 10-10? So there was that.
Agrees with you, by the way, in the chat. You call the timeout before the punt.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, with a minute 40 to go, you call that timeout because 30 seconds ran off. If you got the ball, you can run 4, 5, or 6 plays with 30 seconds. A quick out of bounds, over the middle timeout. You can run all kinds of plays if you have the ball. But if the other team has the ball, you're going to let them run 35 seconds off the clock with a minute and a half to play in a half, and they're punting to you. I mean, that was way too conservative. And even when they had the ball near midfield, they could have tried a couple of passes, and they didn't. And then
Robbie Gould's a good kicker. All you needed is 20 yards.
And they gave up on that. So it just seemed like that it was 10-10, and they were content with that, and they weren't going for the win. So let's take a look at some of the scoring here real quick. So in the first quarter, San Fran, they got on the board first with a field goal, 3-0, 38-yard kick. All the kicking was good. Us New England fans are really jealous. We're not used to field goals and extra points going through the uprights on a consistent basis, by the way. Just throwing that out there.
Here's the world's smallest violin playing.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we would hold our breath all the time with our kickers. It was unbelievable. Kansas City come down in that first quarter. They went up 7-3, so 7-3 after 1. They added a field goal in the second quarter, so 10-3. So Kansas City had a 10-3 lead in the second quarter, and here come the 49ers. Okay, the 15-yard touchdown pass. They tied it 10-10, and they take the knee. It was really weird. But then a good third quarter for the 49ers. Field goal and a touchdown. So they tack on 10 more points, and they're up 20-10. We go to the fourth quarter, and if I was looking at the plays here, if I'm reading it correctly, I want to say that the Chiefs got the ball with about 8 minutes to play in the game. Or looks like about 8 minutes to go. And 49ers didn't do anything after that. It
No,
was,
they had, as Al said in the chat, the not being able to score after the second Mahomes pick was the killer.
Yeah.
And San Francisco's defense, I didn't realize that Vin Diesel was the defensive coordinator for San Francisco. They threw the kitchen sink at Mahomes and said, beat us. And he did. I mean, they had him 7-8 yards behind the line of scrimmage. He would fling it out of bounds to not take the sack. They sacked him 4 times, which is pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
He would make plays. He knew he is matured enough to know when he has to throw it away, when he can try to beat you with his legs. That run in the first half when he gave the San Francisco defender a near concussion, popped the ball out. Remember that? Or were you playing with your French fry puzzle at that point? And Mahomes just gets up and smiles. And Mahomes won that game for them. He ran the ball 9 times. He knew when to use his legs. He knew when to use his arm, and they got it. They figured it out, and San Francisco couldn't figure out how to shut him down. And so the more I'm watching this last night going, damn, he's good. It's the first time ever, and I did not know this until I saw this on a Facebook meme last night, so sometimes you can trust what you see on Facebook. That it's the first time a team has come down from 10 points or more in 3 consecutive playoff games.
Yeah, that was nuts, wasn't it?
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And it's on Mahomes. He won them that Super Bowl. And give as much as I poop on Andy Reid in private, Andy Reid called the perfect game last night. There's nothing that you could sit there and go, why are you calling that? I mean, you can second, as you were correct to second guess that play calling for San Francisco at the end of the first half. There was nothing you could sit there and go last night, geez, Andy, what are you doing?
Yeah. So just if take a look at what happened at the end. So Mahomes is picked off with about 12 minutes left at the 13. Okay, they're driving. They're down by 10, and they get picked off. And that's when I sent you the message. This is over now. They're down by 10. They get picked off at the 13. San Francisco, all they need is basically a field goal or just control some time. Well, here's what San Francisco did: 5 plays and a punt.
Kansas City's defense woke up.
They 3 minutes. That drive, it was a 3-minute drive. So 9 minutes left. Chiefs drive the ball down, score, right? So now what's that? Now it's a 3-point game.
Right.
49ers get the ball, 3 and out. They take a minute off the clock. They give it back to the Chiefs with 5 minutes to play.
Running game too.
7 plays, 65 yards. Chiefs score to take the lead. 49ers get the ball back with 2:44 to play.
Yeah, they had enough time. I'm thinking Garoppolo's going to bring them down a score.
Yep. And they go 7 plays, and that final 4th and 10 was a sack.
Yep.
And that was that. They did get the ball back because
and he got the pick 6, right? Or it's 31-20.
Well, he got the sack, and that's when Kansas City the 2 plays they ran it 42 yards for a touchdown. So they get the ball back one more time.
I need to stop and give a shout out right now. My friend Ricky Keeler, who I've worked with in the past, he was my buddy when we ran the Washington National site together. Yesterday afternoon, about noontime, says, "Okay, here's my prediction: 31-20. They can stop him for 3 quarters." And that's about it. And he was right. So, Ricky Keeler, this one's for you. Got that exactly right.
I said 31-21.
31-21. You didn't give a team, and you said that to me at 9:58.
No, I didn't. I didn't even have a pick. But yes, I mean, San Francisco
got it right.
San Francisco, they did nothing in that 4th quarter. They couldn't do anything. And then, when they ran the ball in that 38-yard sweep for the touchdown, that was it. But it was fun. I mean, 20-10, I'm thinking there's no way they come back from 2 scores. But San Francisco, they laid an egg. I don't know if they were playing conservative. I don't know what it was. I mean, like our Red Sox fans said, Jimmy G missed that TD there he had the guy behind the coverage. He drops it in anywhere close to him. He's, even if he doesn't score, he's at the 5-yard line, and he overthrew him by 10 yards. 10 yards he overthrew him by.
You get to a point, and we see this in game 7s of championship series, where the moment kind of catches up to you. you realize what's going on. And in baseball, we see bad management in Game 7. Basketball, you're just tired. You've been doing this. We watched the Bruins in Game 7 this past year in the Stanley Cup final. You just kind of get caught up in the moment. And I think for San Francisco, it dawned on them that they were going to win this game. And because Mahomes had done the comeback against Tennessee, that was a 24. No, Houston. That was the game they were down 24. They were down, 17 to Tennessee in the AFC Championship?
But both of that was early in the game. That was
still
half.
You got to do that.
No, you got to come. But but if you're down by 2 scores in the first half and you're down by 2 scores in the fourth quarter, that's a big thing. Difference.
But he had done it the last 2 games. That's the point I was trying to make. We're not out. We've done this already. Let's just do it.
So Garoppolo overthrows him. He has some chances there. I don't think Garoppolo played bad at all. Mahomes didn't play super for 3 quarters. One interception wasn't his fault. The one that hit off the guy's hand, maybe threw it behind him a little bit. The other one, it was bad. He just threw it.
Garoppolo's rating isn't great. It was only 69.2, but he went 20 for 31 for 219 yards and a score, and they only sacked him once. Mahomes went 26 for 42, 286 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, 4 sacks, and he had a rating of 78.1. And the 49ers really didn't establish the run. They were, wow, your wife's on.
Yeah, she's actually at work today. She was out of work an entire week with pneumonia. Yeah. So she's feeling better today.
And so a case of, that was San Francisco's bread and butter, was the run. You run the football. Now, Garoppolo learns from this. He'll have to realize that he has to beat teams. And Mahomes is 24. The world is now his oyster. He is now the poster quarterback for the National Football League.
What do you think, if you had to pick, and even in the chat room here, what do you, Ron, and what do you, chat room, think was the turning point in the game last night? Was there a particular play, a particular drive? Where do you think the game changed?
When San Francisco didn't score after the second Mahomes pick and just left the door open.
Well, they went 5 and out. I think.
Yeah,
I think we said a 3 and out, or 5 and out.
Whatever it was, they
got one first down, and then that was it. I think they got a first down.
That's where the momentum, I think, could have swung. San Francisco gets a field goal there, and Kansas City needs 2 touchdowns.
I don't even think they need to score, but they needed to drive it into KC territory, chomp 3, 4, 5 minutes off the clock, and pin them deep. Okay, instead of getting the ball at the 13, getting 20 yards or so, and then running a minute off the clock and punting. I mean, that's kind of what happened. So they didn't chomp any time off the clock. They didn't get a good position to punt. They couldn't pin him deep. And so Kansas City just drove it right down. And then even after the ensuing kickoff, it was the same thing. San Francisco did nothing. They really did. Hey, and Al's heading back to work. So Al, thanks for jumping in. And ID Jester's in the room. Thank you. Turbocharged Sports is in here. We were just talking about the game last night, football in general, other things as well. Let me ask you this, Ron. Let me ask you this, chat room. That questionable touchdown where he broke the plane when his foot hit the chalk going out of bounds, that put them ahead, I think. Otherwise, it would have been 4th and goal on the inch line. Do you think that was touchdown?
That's a toughie. There was a couple calls that were missed last night, but again, when you have to go through to the when you have to go to the super slow-mos that they have in the Super Bowl, those 5,000 frames per second cameras to figure this stuff out.
Hey, Apple Brian and Red.
And I would agree with ID. I think San Francisco played it not to lose instead of playing to win. And you just can't, once you get in that position, you can't take your foot off the throttle.
On that play, my take on that play, and of course, I watched 100 different angles. I would say that the exact same time his foot hit the chalk, the ball hit the plane, because both happened. He did go out of bounds, and he did hit the plane of the goal line with the ball, okay, because he reached across. The tough thing to determine is his foot is going out of bounds, okay? So his foot is over the chalk, right? Because he's going to land on the chalk. So his foot is in the air getting ready to step on the ground, which makes him out of bounds. It's hard to determine when his foot actually hit the ground to make him out of bounds and then determine where the ball was at that moment. If I had to guess, I would think that the ball had just crossed the plane, just broke it, just a smidgen broke it, and then he hit out of bounds. It was bang, bang. I don't think he went out of bounds before the ball hit the goal line. Again, I'm just going by the camera angles they showed me. I don't know. But knowing that there's no way to determine when his foot hit the ground compared to, because it looked like he was out of bounds early. But again, the foot's in the air. It still has to hit the ground to be out of bounds. I thought the ball just touched the plane.
If we can have a tennis court wired for 100-mile-an-hour shots to be determined where they strike a line, why can't we put a chip in a football to light up when it crosses a pylon?
Have you ever seen people play Rocket League by chance, Ron?
Yes.
You see when the ball crosses the goal, it lights up and does all these crazy things. That would be awesome. That would be awesome. Something like that. And Red Fan Ron says, the referee was right there making the call. Well, I saw a referee right there making a call in the Pittsburgh-Seattle Super Bowl where Ben Roethlisberger's helmet was on the goal line. The ball was in his chest, and they called it a touchdown. But there was no angle showing the ball not going in or going in. But if he's got the ball in his chest and his face is on the goal line, there's no way the ball's over the goal line. But they didn't reverse the call, and I thought Seattle got screwed on that call because I don't think Roethlisberger got the ball in. So even having a man 6 feet away, well, he was, obviously he was probably 50 yards away in the sideline or whatever it is, or 25 yards, standing on the goal line watching. I don't think Roethlisberger got in years ago. You can watch all the replays. There's no definitive angle, but if your helmet's on the goal line and you get the ball in your chest, physically, I don't think it's possible that the ball's in.
Yep. No, yeah.
But last night's call, I don't have a problem with it. There were people that was complaining that the refs are giving it to Kansas City. That was way, way too close to call to say that, they definitely gave it to Kansas City. They cheated. No, it was bang, bang. I thought he got it across the line first. And if they had called it back, it wouldn't have mattered anyway to me. Like I say, I got no dog in the fight. I thought he was in, though.
I want to talk a little bit about the gaming aspect of this because this is a cards and dice. This is a sports.
Yeah, there's been a lot of people on Facebook and other places that have posted their replays of the game that they played. Kansas City, San Francisco. Results are all over the place from high scoring to low scoring, and I'm hoping to do that too. I gotta find. I don't know if any of the Downey games have the 2019 season. Game-winning drive, fast action football.
I think one of them, maybe Momentum, which I know is not.
I don't really like them
of your arsenal. Yeah. I did the game in 2nd and 10, and because that's of the two football games that I have, that's the one that had the season. And I knew when I played it that it wasn't being played right. Not that I didn't think San Francisco wasn't very capable of blowing them out of the water, but if you go back and look through, I've uploaded it now on YouTube. At the end of the game stats, Kansas City outgained them. It was a bunch of plays. But the one thing that game did not get right is it did not give Mahomes the chance to improvise, because it is so very much like a card and dice game that it gives you X amount of carries and catches per player. And it only gave, in this particular game, Mahomes 1 carry. And if they key Mahomes after you burn your carries, then there's no positive. The positives go down. It's like built-in fatigue thing. But Mahomes only had 43 regular season carries. His legs won them those 3 playoff games, but all games based on the regular season. And so because Mahomes was kind of handcuffed by the game on what he could and couldn't do, he wasn't going to be able to beat San Francisco easily. His receivers didn't have enough catches. They couldn't run the football. And Mahomes being the wild card, he was flushed out of the pocket. I believe, I don't know how many sacks San Francisco had on him in my game, but they had him on the ground an awful lot. It was going to be extremely difficult. I bet, Dave, if I played that game in Action PC next summer or this summer, that Kansas City wins, because he will have the ability to scramble that he didn't have in there. Just put it out there. It's tough.
What's difficult, whether you're playing a cards and dice game or a PC sports game, or everything but Madden. I don't want to include Madden in that, because they can update that on the fly.
A simulator, not an arcade game.
Yeah, you can update Madden on the fly and the whole bit like that. But if you're playing the cards and dice version or a simulation version, one thing that it can't make up for is some of the trick plays. Like last night, they had, they shuffled around and they direct snap to the running back who ran up the middle, or, sometimes you snap to the running back and he throws a pass, or maybe you have a double pass. There's a lot of things that the simulations can't do. They can't predict.
And intangibles is something they can't do either.
Exactly. So if you go back to pass and then you scramble out, or the option plays last night, they ran a few option plays and you saw them coming a mile away. And so there's a lot of things that get, so you just take it with a grain of salt when you do these replays there, and you enjoy it for what they are.
Yeah, I do this stuff for entertainment. I don't definitively think that whatever my pre-play is going to be the be-all end-all result. I learned a lot about what to expect last night running it, but it's not. I didn't expect them to win by 20.
Hang on a second. I need to kick somebody out of the chat who's talking baseball. So hang on 1 second.
Yeah, please do, because we can talk about that tomorrow at noon.
Pitches and catches report in 6 months. We got to talk baseball.
Hey, today's Truck Day at Fenway, by the way.
No baseball talk.
Yeah,
no baseball talk.
Yeah, you know what my favorite day of the calendar is, Mister. You know why I love Game 7? Because it's over. You know why I love when the Super Bowl's over? Because it's that much closer to baseball season.
Oh, do I get
to already have the hockey playoffs? So
we're looking for a new host for Digital to Dice. If anybody would like to replace Ron,
Dave. If you would like to fill in for Dave, no.
Oh boy,
but no, and I think that's one of those things that when the game gets patched, or when you have an obvious situation where, look, in the college game of 2nd and 10, what they would do, also because in college, a sack counts as a run for a quarterback, which isn't the case in the NFL, is that they artificially inflate the amount of run chances for a quarterback. So Mahomes probably should have had 3 carries attached to him instead of 1. And then I might have, as a coach, burned one on a set play, as opposed to, look, no, I need him to take those carries scrambling the football. Give him like 7 or 8 carries and let me as a coach decide what I want to do. That's kind of an easy fix. I haven't looked at Baltimore and what they've done for Lamar Jackson, who obviously runs, at this point in his career, runs before he passes.
I think when you're replaying something, I don't want to say modern, but recent. That's a better word, recent. It's fresh in our minds. So, if you were to go replay that today, or if I picked up a season and replayed it today, it's fresh in our minds. Whereas if we go back and play something, a Super Bowl from 20 years ago, we might not remember all that about. I think we'd be more forgiving with it.
You and I talked about it. You didn't remember, and I didn't know until I started playing the 78 Patriots that Steve Grogan was pretty gosh darn mobile.
Yeah.
600 yards on the ground that year.
Yeah, my recollection of him was not a mobile quarterback, but
he was a Drew Bledsoe statue.
But I guess he wasn't. So, no. I think if we were to go back and play any of the other Super Bowls, we'd be a lot more forgiving with the game that we're playing, the simulation game that we're playing, because it was so long ago, and you're enjoying it for what it is. Where if we tried to play this year's Super Bowl, last year's championship game, we'd want it somewhat accurate because it's fresh in our minds.
Right.
And I mean, if we played last year's game and New England won 37-30, or the Rams won 41-22 or whatever, it's far cry from the 13-3 final that there was, and we'd probably be disappointed. But in 15 years, if we were to play San Francisco, Kansas City, we would probably be a lot more forgiving of the game.
Other thing is with football, especially because the season is so short and the amount of games that are played, is that even baseball, which does 162 games and gives starters 600 plate appearances, you can kind of even, that's a plus or minus 5% bell curve, even with all that. In football, it's so variable. When I opened up 2nd and 10 to establish, just set up for the game, I hadn't played a game in that since I did the pre-play last year for the Patriots and the Rams. And I looked, and it was a 1-point game. The Patriots, I think, won 24-23. And that, again, you really don't know. And to say that you could play a game 100 times over, and yeah, I could see San Francisco winning 41-22, and I can see Kansas City blowing them out too. It's just one of those things. How do you get enough variance in any football sim to say, no, that's not realistic? How do you know?
I don't know.
Yeah. But it'll be fun, because I think once Action PC comes out, that might be the game that I do as the live, that first weekend game, replaying the Super Bowl, because it was fun.
So Fast Action Football has 2018, but not 2019.
No, they don't. For baseball, they come out with the playoff teams. That's why I could do on the last 2 World Series pre-plays. But they won't come out with a new football season until the game comes out before training camps.
Yeah, there's game-winning drive 2019.
No, there you go.
So
that's what Brian says. A team stock can't be taken into account by replay games. The Chiefs' 3-4 more read-reactive 2018 would have been trashed by the Niners. This year's more aggressive approach won, and they were very aggressive last night. Garoppolo was rattled, especially late. And I agree with ID. I think San Francisco played not to lose.
Yeah, well, especially at the end of the first half, they let it be known that they did not want to give Kansas City another chance. Because now is that not having confidence? I mean, you talked about their running game. Why wouldn't they just running it down their throat? And if it didn't work, that's fine. But they didn't try. They let the clock run out on the punt, and then they got the midfield, close to midfield, and they just took the knee.
Does strange things in a time when you least expect it. There's a story of the year that the Patriots came back to beat the Eagles in the Super Bowl. Okay, the Eagles had a chance to win that game late. That's the year that T.O. played.
Mm-hmm.
Of Owens upset, for a lack of a more public word, because McNabb is behind the bench, dry heaving on the sideline. And Owens knew at that point New England would win. The moment overwhelmed the player. And all it takes is one coach, one player, and it's, I mean, someone brought it up in the chat earlier. Once the Chiefs got that momentum, it carried over to every facet of their game the rest of the way, and it fed on each other. Momentum is a real thing in sports, whether it's your peewee hockey at 5 a.m. or the Super Bowl. And ID says another good point from ID. If you watch the first and second quarter, they were doing double end around. Samuel, I think, was their leading rusher in the first half. And the halfback pass to the quarterback in the second, they did nothing but straight runs. I think someone got, and we're not talking baseball today, Mike. Someone got scared, and that's all it takes. And we talked about it with McNabb in that Super Bowl. Some people rise to the occasion. You go back to Super Bowl I, and Boyd Dowler for Green Bay is hurt. And Max McGee, who got absolutely bombed the night before, is the hero in that game. He doesn't remember it. But it just takes out one little thing. It may have been a coach, it may have been a player. but it's like dominoes.
You talk about, playing not to win. But I think you can play smart. You don't have to get overly aggressive. And I think back to last year, the New England Miami game. Okay, when New England had the ball, they're up.
Is that the walk off?
That's the one that Miami had that last play, and they hitched and lateraled 5 times, and they scored the touchdown with no time left to pull out the miraculous win. New England had the ball, first and goal, and they were running it, chewing up the clock. They weren't really trying to get in that end zone, and they did everything right. They got it down with 10 seconds to play in the game. They kicked the field goal. They went up by 4 or 5 or 6, whatever it was. They did everything correct. They weren't playing not to lose. They just were like, look, we're going to grind it down to 10 seconds left and kick off. And what are the chances you give somebody one play and they do a 70-yard hitch and lateral? That stuff happens. So, I mean, you look back at that and it's like, I wouldn't have done anything different.
Go back to the first Giant Patriots Super Bowl. 34 seconds left to go. Brady had Moss almost hit that with 34 seconds left. That would have set the winning score for the Patriots. As a Giants fan, you wouldn't have been upset. You gave everything that you had, didn't execute. You can't take all the time off the clock. When the running back had that touchdown last night to give him the 11-point lead, I was kind of like, what are you doing? What are you giving them any hope for? You go down to the 2 and you take a knee and you run time or make them call a timeout. Now, his enthusiasm went in for the touchdown. I get it, but or, the year that the Patriots got lucky against Seattle and they didn't hand it off to Marshawn, I'm getting 6 yards to touch Lynch. Again, just those little things that in August and September and October don't mean anything. You're not going to remember, oh, yeah, that game in September when we missed the field goal. No one's going to remember that. You do it this time of year, it's remembered forever.
Yep. San Fran played 3 good quarters. They did. They took a 10-point lead into the fourth quarter, and then they couldn't stop the Chiefs. The Chiefs drove it down every time. That's just what they did. And then you can't go 3 and out and then 5 and out in the fourth quarter and then not stop the other team.
Not with that running game. They were a good January team because they could pound the football, and Garoppolo was successful this year because he had the running game behind him. He did not need to go out and beat teams single-handedly. Mahomes, on the other hand, said, "Get on my back, boys. We're doing this," and he did it 3 weeks in a row. I want to because we're only supposed to do a half hour at 40 minutes. Talk a few minutes about Brady. What you think that when we talked a little bit about this,
where he's gonna go. But I'm really torn on this. Part of me would like him to finish out New England, for better or for worse. Play your entire career with one team, go to 9 Super Bowls, win 6 of them. I don't think they'll be going back. But I think next year there could be a chance if they build a team around him. It's quite possible. So it would be good to see him just kind of finish it out, so to speak, in New England. Part of me though would be really cool in a different way to see Brady go to another team. The Las Vegas Raiders open up a brand new stadium, a new location, a new team. How cool would it be to see Brady go there to see what he can do? I wouldn't want to see him go to a terrible team, and I don't think he would go to a terrible team, but it would be interesting to see what he would do away from Belichick. And my thinking is that this is the whole is better than the sum of the parts. I think together they do great things. I think separate they do okay things. It's almost like a band when the lead singer goes off and forms his own band, and then the current band finds a new singer. They never reach that level of success that they had together. So I think if Brady were to leave, the Patriots, they would go from a 12-4 team to 10-6 or 9-7. Yep. I think they would be. At the same time, if Brady were to go to a medium to decent team, he would get them an 8-8 team to 10-6 or a 9-7 team to 11-5. I don't think either one of them go deep in the playoffs without each other. I think you'd have like I say, the Patriots would be a little bit less. Brady would make another team a little bit better, but I don't think any of them tip the scales. And if I had to guess, again, without knowing where he will end up, if he does go to another team, so it's really hard to say, because if he went to a strong contending team, that would make all the difference in the world. But my guess is that Belichick would get back to a Super Bowl before Brady, because Belichick's system works well. That year that Brady was hurt, and they had the backup come in, they still went 10-6. They didn't make the playoffs because they were bounced out because there was a lot of 10-16s, but they didn't go 8-8. They didn't go 6-10. They went 10-6 with the backup quarterback in the Belichick system.
Made him a lot of money too.
I think that they wouldn't be as good, but if you ask me, hey, well, who's going to make it further, I would think a Belichick team would get further without Brady than a Brady team without Belichick, depending where he goes, though. If he goes to a solid team, maybe. Like Jessica was saying about Peyton Manning go to take them to the Super Bowl. That defense was unbelievable. Did you watch the Super Bowl with Peyton Manning and the Broncos? He was horrible. That last one was embarrassing how bad he was.
I'm going to bring that up. And I agree. San Francisco's defense got worn out. Brady is not where Manning is. I mean, Brady's 42 this year, and I don't think the Raiders are a Super Bowl team if Tom went in that direction. I think the Patriots win the division, but I don't know who the Patriots would go for in the quarterback. Belichick, I think, had a worse year than Brady. You do not make a 41-year-old quarterback throw 37 passes a game. And their play calling against Tennessee in that first game was terrible, was absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
I think Brady has one more run in him. As a neutral observer, I would like to see that with New England. Just go out. You want to see the arm around Belichick and Giselle and go out like Gronk did. If he was to leave Brady to Philly, if Brady leaves, I think he's going West Coast. I kind of wondered with the Chargers now in their new stadium and the Los Angeles market, if they would kind of do Brady for Phillip Rivers for a year and see there. I think if Brady leaves New England, I think he's going West Coast. I don't think he's staying in the East. He would be an improvement, still over half the quarterbacks in the league. But anyway, but on the other hand, you can just say, to me, not having Gronk made all the difference in the world for New England.
No Gronk, no Antonio Brown, no Josh Gordon. Say what you want about the problems with some of the guys, not Gronk, so to speak, but the other. You take those three guys off of any team, what do you think you're gonna do? And the guys he was throwing to, they were running wrong routes. They were. You can see Brady was completely frustrated, and he was throwing to Edelman, and that was it. Nobody else could make a catch. Nobody else knew where to go. And I heard from a lot of people saying that's the problem with New England, is their system is so complex that if you don't get it, then you're not going to be in the right spot, and that's going to hurt the team. It's just too complex of a system.
Elway won as an elderly player because he had Terrell Davis. Peyton Manning got to 2 Super Bowls in a row, not because of his ability to throw a wounded duck. He wounded enough ducks that even Daffy would call the ASPCA after a while. But because he had a running game behind him. If the Patriots are serious about giving Brady another shot, they need a 20 carry a night guy in that backfield. So Brady does not need to do that single-handedly, because for years, with the exception of Randy Moss and Gronkowski when he was in his prime, it has been a MacGyver receiving core. Duct tape, bubble gum, and Troy Brown, for crying out loud. That's what the Patriots need. If they're wherever Brady goes, he needs to be in a situation where he can hand it off 20 to 25 times a game with a competent running back. It's a lot of what happened to Eli at the end of his career. He just wasn't very good the last couple of years, and they finally got Saquon Barkley there. But that's When the Giants went from a run-first offense to a pass-first offense, you can just see the win totals go right down. And for Brady, who's not mobile at all now, that's what he needs. He needs to be where he can manage and not try to force things.
So again, I'm torn. It'd be neat to see him do something like Montana and Peyton Manning, go to another team to see what kind of success he would have. And it'd be interesting to see what the Pats can do without him. But at the same time, there is the finish it out with that one team, call it a career. And
that if there was a parting of the ways and there's one more year, if there's a 2020 season for Brady, I see it going better for Brady away from New England than New England without Brady.
In the short term, yeah.
In the short term, absolutely.
Yeah. But I think if you give Belichick a couple of years, a new quarterback, or give him time.
But if you're Bill Belichick, do you do it?
Boy, I tell you.
What more does Bill Belichick have to prove?
Well, there's talk out here that he wants to prove he can do it without Brady.
I mean, we watched Tom Landry coach too long. We watched Jimmy Johnson coach too long. Maybe Johnson's a better example of that. We watched Bill Parcells make a fool out of himself in Dallas. Is that what we want, our lasting images of?
Well, that's the thing. If Brady leaves and Belichick goes 4-12 next year, boy, I tell you, it's, you don't want that lasting impression.
I mean, the last game Jimmy Johnson coached was that 62-7 shellacking by Jacksonville over Miami. And he's right. Bill has a lot to prove. He didn't do much without Brady, except for draft him in the 6th round and win 6 Super Bowls.
But Brady hasn't done much without Belichick either. So, I mean,
he only went 20-5 as a starter at Michigan. We'd kill for a quarterback at Michigan who went 20-5, but that's another day.
Yeah. Let's see. Apple Brian says he thinks Chargers for Brady. Yeah, that's
I can see that. Because I don't think there would be a lot of pressure. Then the number 2 team there already. It's a new stadium. It's an established market. And Baseball Demo says, the worst hang on of all time was Unitas wearing the Chargers powder blue. Maybe Namath with the Rams, because I remember that.
Yeah, that was tough. But we, real quick, as we talked about, winning championships makes all the difference. If Namath and the Jets don't win that Super Bowl, is Namath in the Hall of Fame?
No.
Isn't that crazy?
And
you win one game.
Namath and Eli are kind of in that same boat. They were the best players in the history. Okay, there's better players in the Giants franchise, but they're top 5 players in their team's history.
So one game determines if you're in the Hall of Fame or not.
Yeah.
Yep.
One game doesn't necessarily have to be a championship game. Phil Simms in the Hall of Fame, and Jeff Hostetler got the 2nd ring. Phil has 2 rings, but he only played in 1 Super Bowl.
Is Frank Reich? Is he in the Hall of Fame?
No, he might get in as a college coach.
Because he had that big comeback for the Bills, and they didn't win the Super Bowl, but he got him there as a backup. No,
Fouts and that's an interesting thing. Although, like I said, you look at Eli's numbers. I mean, he was never the best quarterback in football. I'm not even going to claim that, okay? But as far as what he meant to that franchise, again, is it the Hall of Statistically Great, or is it the Hall of Fame? And can you, to go to the Keltner test, can you tell the story of the NFL and the New York Giants in that era and not talk about Eli Manning? You can't.
Is Steve Grogan in the Hall of Fame?
Oh my! Why would Steve Grogan be in the Hall of Fame?
Because if you talk about the Patriots in the 70s and 80s, you can't talk about them without talking Steve Grogan, according to the Ron Juckett argument.
I would put Bledsoe in the Hall of Fame over Grogan.
But see, just because that he was their best quarterback for many years doesn't make him a Hall of Famer. But the Hall of Fame, I would say the criteria for making the Hall of Fame now is so low. There's people getting in the Hall of Fame that I've never heard of. And there's people getting in the Hall of Fame that are getting in there just on reputation, not on numbers. It's almost like a popularity contest at this point here. So I don't. There's so many people going to Hall of Fame now, and like we talked about the other day, there's a couple of coaches that got elected to Hall of Fame. And if that's the criteria for getting into the Hall of Fame, then why aren't these 9 coaches in the Hall of Fame?
Indifferent to Cowher getting in the Hall of Fame. Jimmy Johnson deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
Why is that?
Why is that? 2 Super Bowls. He did a decent job in Miami. Yeah, no, its popularity isn't stat-based. I agree. I think that Jimmy Johnson was the primary reason of Dallas's success, and even Barry Switzer couldn't screw that up. Barry won that 3rd Super Bowl with Jimmy's boys. And Cowher has a good chin. And Cowher didn't want to get back into coaching, and I can't, with all the hours you got to do that, I don't blame him. And before we go, I want to give it, that's why I said it, because he's one of those 2 coaches, him and Cowher. The one name I was delighted to see from they're going to induct 20 people this year in the Canton, because for the 100th anniversary. The one name that I was delighted to see, never played it down in the NFL, never coached in the NFL, never was in a front office. ID disagrees, and that's fine. And I think Cowher was a good coach. I think Cowher kind of sold himself short by never coaching again. He had chances. The Giants wanted him. Carolina wanted him. But let me go back to and I'll finish on this thought. To see Steve Sabol on that list. Steve Sabol established a generation of football fans. We sat there and watched those NFL films. His dad is in the Hall of Fame, and Ed clearly deserves to be there. But Steve Sabol made us football fans.
Yes.
Yep. Artistry, the music, the writing. And it's such a shame that he died. Brain cancer killed him. I don't know if you remember that or not. That he died before he got the chance to get in, because that's what Hall of Fames are for.
Well, it doesn't say the Hall of Players, it's the Hall of Fame. And there's people in the Hockey Hall of Fame too that were broadcasters and reporters, and that's good to see. Yes, because how many times did we grow up watching the NFL films and the football follies and all that stuff?
And so I'm glad that Steve's getting in this year.
Good.
It was good to see Troy Polamalu and his bottle of Head and Shoulders get in too. But
is he Hall of Fame worthy though? I mean, this is what we're talking about. We're now on the B and B- level guys, letting him into the Hall of Fame.
Would you call Polamalu? I mean, he was one of the best ever at his position.
We're letting guys in that have a good season or 2.
Steve Atwater got in. That was kind of a surprise.
I'm not saying no to Polamalu, but we're just letting everybody in now. And so you might as well just let them in.
I think the NFL kind of hindered itself by making sure that 4 to 5 guys get in every year. If they did it like baseball and say, look, if only one guy gets in, then one guy gets in. And Baseball Demos has it right. NFL Films can put together a team highlight package to make the Bengals look like Super Bowl champions. And Turk showed her that one Sunday. And
I go back and I could watch something. They did something on the 76 Buccaneers that went 0-14, and they put a positive spin on that. The defensive front line is improving. The Selman brothers on the left side are not letting anybody through. This young quarterback is doomed. He's looking at greatness. And Coach McKay, first year coach, he's going to have this team looking real good short term. You know what I mean? That's how they did it. It was hilarious that they could do that, but it was fun. We all watched it. It was great.
Packages in the 90s. It's just an endless loop of Barry Sanders.
Yeah. They didn't have to do any work at all.
One pass and a bunch of 90-yard runs from Barry Sanders. He's going to lose 15 here. No, he only gained 6 on the play. Yeah. He ran 90 to get the 6.
So one last topic here before we wrap up today on Monday here at lunchtime on special video edition Digital Dice. Ron, we got to talk about this. This is the big issue here. We should have led with this, but we'll wrap up with this. The Oreo cookie with the maximum filling. I thought it was a joke. Seriously, I thought that it was a
The one
joke.
I posted for women was the joke a few weeks ago with the wine filling with the medication in the cookie.
Oh yeah, they have all kinds. It's like the pickle ones and the whole bit. So I thought this Oreo cookie with the most stuff. It looks like it's about a ½ inch to 3/4 of an inch thick, full of the Oreo cream filling. So you got the Oreo cookie, then you have the double stuff. I was a fan of the double stuff for many, many years.
Yes.
30 years.
Yes.
But now they have all these crazy, and I thought this most stuff, I thought it was a joke. So I saw people posting pictures of it, and I was like, no way, this is a joke. These Oreo cookies are not real with this much stuffing. Who would eat that? It is. And I'm checking out today at the grocery store, and I even took a picture of it. Yes, the Oreo cookie, the most stuff, backed by popular demand, is a real thing. I should have got it just to check it out, but I'm afraid with that much stuffing, oh my gosh. Oh, what how would you eat that? I mean, even the double stuff sometimes has too much stuffing
slowly
in it.
Wait for and have 911 on speed dial for the resulting diabetic coma.
I guess so. I mean, you wonder how much is each cookie, how much.
I said 110 calories. You did get that part of it. So that's one cookie, 110 calories. No, wow. You couldn't do that. First, you couldn't do that. I mean, that's something of your middle school dreams, for crying out loud.
I mean, you might have one.
Yeah, I mean, you could only eat
just
one.
To say, yeah, but to try to have more than one, no. I mean, yeah, no. So that's why I saw that. I was like, no, I can't. There's no way I can do that. Yeah, I just no. As tempted as I was just to see them and hold them in my hand. No, you're right. Yeah, the diabetic coma coming up.
that's a one. That's okay. Or maybe you split it. But
yeah, and I think they were, I think they were $3, $4, $5 for the package. I'm like, I'm not spending $3, $4, $5 to have one or two.
But the inner 8-year-old in me is going.
Oh, it was like, wow, yeah, it was unbelievable. So anyway, all right, well, let's wrap things up here. Special video edition of Digital to Dice here. We lunchtime on Monday. We're wrapping up the big game between the Chiefs and the 49ers. We talked a little bit about Hall of Fame. We talked a little bit about Tom Brady. We talked a little bit about Oreo cookies, a little bit of everything here today. Hope you guys enjoyed our little talk show today. Haven't been live in quite some time, so it's nice to get back in the saddle and talk some sports here. We even talked about simulating the Super Bowl a little bit too today to wrap it up fully. So
I enjoyed doing it, but it's just like everything else that I do. Don't take it as what I think is gospel. It's going to happen, but it's plausible. But
it's fun to pre-play. A lot of people were pre-playing, as we talked about, and the results were everything from a 7-6 game to a 45-42 game, and last minute coming back. But that's what it's all about. Y'all playing it, having some fun with it, enjoying your replay. So, yeah, it was. I enjoyed reading all the people's recaps of their games, and next year Action PC, we'll probably have to do that. We'll get the new season.
Do that again because I'm very curious to see what they do with Mahomes.
Yeah, that would be pretty fun to do that. So check it out. And I'm kind of hoping some of the Downey games, game-winning drive right now is the only one I see. 2019, at least I have Fast Action Football, Mean Gene, and Game-Winning Drive. The other ones I don't have, so I didn't check because I don't have them, and I'm not going to buy them for one season. Not sure if I want to spend $15 on Game-Winning Drive just to play that one game over. And Game-Winning Drive is kind of a fast play game too. You really don't get a feel for the individuals. Fast Action Football would be fun though. I love Fast Action Football. So I would, if they come out with 2019, I would get that. And I would definitely replay that. So that's something to look forward to in the future. But anyway, thanks everybody that jumped in. Baseball Demos, ID, Apple Brian, Turbocharged Sports. The Sports Time Machine was in here for a while. Sharon was in here for a while. Nate was in here. Turbocharged Sports was in here. Hopefully I don't miss anybody. There's some people that were here early on in the show. Max Cornelius stopped by, our Red Sox fan. I'm sorry if I missed something. Kind of scrolling through here real quick. But we had Red fan Rod was in the chat for a while here. So really good comments, really adding to the discussion we had here today. Just chatting about what happened last night and football in general and the whole bit. So, so that'll do it here. We did do a new Digital to Dice. I went out last Friday, episode 26. We talked about jazzing up your game. What are some of the things you do to make your game fun, more cosmetic than anything else? But, whether it's on the tabletop or whether it's on the computer or even on the console, some of the things. What do you do? And I think this week, Ron, I think we're going to try to have a comment show reaction to some of the comments.
Great comments from when you were sick and the topics that we talked about. And I think we're going to go through that and how people jazz up their games and all that.
Yeah. So we got a handful of comments there to go over, and we'll talk about all that. So hopefully we'll get that going this week, depending on how the week goes. Hopefully things go well, and we'll get that recorded later on this week. So that wraps up this video edition of Digital to Dice on the day after the big game, February 3rd of 2020. Ron, thanks for joining me today.
Always a pleasure.
All right. And everybody that tuned in live and tuned in on the replay, thank you so much, and have a good day.